Hello and welcome to the Beyond 6 Seconds podcast. I'm your host, Carolyn Keel, and on today's episode, I'm speaking with Kala Allen Omeiza. Kala is a prolific author at the intersection of race, culture, and autism. Her latest book, Autistic and Black, Our Experiences of Growth, Progress, and Empowerment, has received widespread acclaim for its in-depth exploration of the unique challenges and triumphs faced by autistic individuals of minority backgrounds. Kala is the founder and leader of I'm Heard, a nonprofit that's channeling efforts towards the destigmatization of mental illness in minority communities. She's also worked on various research projects on neurodiversity and mental health at Harvard, Duke, Harvard Medical, and as a US Fulbright scholar in Nigeria. She's a graduate of Miami University and a master's graduate of psychological research from the University of Oxford. An American citizen, she lives in Oxford, England, with her husband, Daniel, their baby boy, and their 11 plants. Kala, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here. And I recently read your brand new book, Autistic and Black, and I loved it. And I'm so excited to learn more about your process for writing it and share more about it with our listeners. So yeah, thank you. I guess just to start off, what inspired you to write Autistic and Black?
Sure. I would say, I think in general, just I haven't seen, there wasn't a book like that before about being like having so many different stories from different Black autistic individuals to come together, kind of share what unites us, what makes us different, what makes us unique, and to share it with others. Also, from coming like in the background from academia, I would often try to write I wrote the book, for example, like kind of more narrative nonfiction. And I received a lot of pushback in academia. Actually, I was criticized for a lot of times for sounding too, it was always called I was sounding too pop. Usually, I remember in my master's dissertation, I in the very early paragraph, I referenced, I think love on the spectrum, actually, just to lead into my research. And but I was told it was not scientific enough. So I wanted to have a resource that would be useful for academics, but also not too stuffy. Also, like basically, so it's a lot of academic writing where we're usually we get more positive feedback when it's more stuffy and it's more longer text. And I wanted to make sure it was really beneficial for a lay reader as well, those that aren't in academia. Yeah, your everyday Black autistic individual, your everyday white autistic individual, basically, that wants to learn, that wants to understand, that wants to empathize. So that's why I wrote it. And just listening to, when I was interviewing all the Black autistic individuals, just hearing so many stories that were so similar, especially so similar to mine, and how we were a lot of us were connected by like a lot of shared experiences with rejection, finding new communities, advocating. I was really inspired to do those stories justice, basically. So I was really careful to write as well as I could to make sure that all our stories come out, in a way that they all deserved.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of the many things that I loved about your book was that you feature people from all different parts of the world. So, the US and the UK, Canada, and then other parts of Africa like Tanzania, South Africa, Nigeria, Senegal, and just like people from different backgrounds, different religions, cultures, different levels of support needs. So it's really just an amazing anthology of mostly Black autistic individuals and some other people in there as well. And it's just so amazing to hear stories from just other parts of the world. Like I'm in the United States, so I tend to hear stories from the United States and maybe
Sure.
a handful of other countries. So it's just wonderful to hear it from other parts of the world as well.
Thanks. Yeah, it was really important to me to bring voices that we often don't hear from, especially those living in the continent of Africa. I wanted to make sure that they were in the book and really well represented too. So it's definitely important to me. I'm happy you appreciate it too.
Yeah. So how did you find and select the people to feature in your book?
Sure. I wish I could say I had this whole like selection process, but it was really everyone who was interested ended up being in the book, basically. And how I found those individuals was first I contacted people I knew. Since I was just relatively recently diagnosed with autism, there wasn't a ton of people I knew in person, but a lot of people I knew in hindsight, such as my childhood friend's brother, Jason. He was in an early chapter about Buffalo, New York, and a colleague I met when I was working in North Carolina, Gerald. He's in one of the middle chapters in part two, I believe. I also made a call on social media as well. Of course, when you make a call on social media, a lot of my followers and a lot of most people's followers are people that are similar. They were similar to me. Basically, they were also from the US, UK, General West. Yeah, we're speaking autistics, for example. So I just did another step further after that by reaching out to different organizations too, like to get a little bit more diverse sample, like the Autism Society of South Africa, Autism Society Twitter account called Autism in Africa, and with some organizations like Neuroclastic, for example, to be introduced to like other non-speakers and those living in the African continent, and just other individuals that I wouldn't have necessarily met as well, just from hashtags or on social media.
Yeah, wow, that's really great. I'm so glad that everybody, it sounds like so many people were interested and that you were able to kind of bring everybody together.
Sure.
And yeah, and I also really love the way that you organized the stories in the book, because for the most part, I think every chapter has usually two stories that have a common theme. So you kind of go back and forth between two people's stories. And then at the end, you add your part of your own experience and your own story in there as well. So I just think that's just a really powerful way to communicate a lot of the similarities that autistic people have, no matter where they are in the world and sort of across our experiences and backgrounds. And I also really love the way that you tied in the concept of Ujima, from the Swahili word around collective work and responsibility, because it really seems like community is a big theme of the book overall as well.
Sure.
Yeah. How did you pick that concept to use Ujima as sort of a thread throughout the book?
Sure. So I felt that using Kwanzaa terminology, Ujima, was a great way to unite all of us in the diaspora together, all of us that are living in Africa and who are living outside of Africa, just all of us having African ancestry. I thought a Kwanzaa principle was a great way to unite all of us. But I honestly, I didn't ultimately intend to use like Ujima throughout the entire book. It was in my outline to write it as the introduction, actually. And as I was writing the book, I realized that it was really important to make sure it was, what's the word? I would say it was emphasized. I think that's the word. There was a more emphasized to like just to bring out the community aspects of ways that, yeah, I could have, for example, I could have better looked out for my community, ways that I looked out for my community well, ways that others looked out for me or other people in my community well. And that's why I tied it in between each chapter in my life to show some examples and to better emphasize the points from previous chapters about community.
Yeah, it's a really nice way to tie all the stories in the book together, and yeah, really brings that point of community across. Absolutely. In the process of writing Autistic and Black, what did you learn that surprised you the most?
Again, I think just how similar our stories were. I remember just thinking how much of a blessing it was for me to fully understand to what extent I wasn't alone. I'm not alone. And I didn't really understand that until I was interviewing. And I'm sure from the feedback I've been getting, it seems like a lot of people didn't really understand that until they're reading the book. Even those featured didn't really, yeah, they really felt really cathartic, like while they're reading others that were featured in the book as well. I always I wish that I had that. I wish I had a resource like that when I was a little bit younger, particularly when I was in high school or when I was in North Carolina, when I had a really bad meltdown, when I lost a lot of friends because of it. I wish I had a resource like that, a resource like Autistic and Black, to feel a little bit more understanding and the cultural and the community aspects as it pertains to like the Black experience. But so yeah, it was really I would say that was like a reason why I was so motivated to do everyone's stories justice when I was writing, because I just knew how a blessing it was for me to hear their stories. So I wanted to make sure everyone, as many people as possible, were blessed to read our stories as well. So I think that was probably what surprised me the most, is how similar we were, even from different backgrounds, different cultures. We were still really similar.
Yeah. I feel like a common theme with a lot of autistic people, particularly people who discover it later in life, is just that feeling of like you're the only one and just sort of always feeling alone. And then it is really kind of exciting and refreshing to find other people who like have share commonalities in your own experience. So that's really
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Were there any, I mean, there's so many amazing, all the stories in your book are amazing, but were there any particular stories that you shared in your book that really moved you the most?
Hmm. I would say meeting Aka and writing about Aka's story. Aka, who's a 12-year-old non-speaking individual from South Africa. I would say his story moved me the most, especially when I was interviewing him. I just remember when I was speaking with him, I was so happy for him and his family. I also talked to his mom as well, but he was able to communicate on his letterboard and was able to express his thoughts and his feelings. Yeah, he's a very eloquent, very wise, boy. And he even acknowledged that if it weren't for his letterboard, if he wasn't able to have an outlet for him to communicate, that others might not have given him a chance at all. They might not have assumed competence with him, and so he's thankful for him to be able to communicate that way. And I'm really grateful he had that, and it was definitely a learning opportunity for me as well as a speaking autistic to talk more with the non-speaking autistic. And I think I was very moved by his story and just meeting him and his family.
Yeah. Yeah, I know me also, I've learned so much from other non-speakers as well and just communicating with them. And yeah, again, it's really exciting to share those stories and really important to be able, because there are so many people who don't assume competence. So
Right.
it's great that it was in your book and really highlighted. Yeah. And you've written multiple books before you wrote Autistic and Black. Was this the first time in a book that you've written about your own experience as a Black autistic girl and woman? And what was that like, sharing that experience in a book?
Yeah, so yeah, it was my first time writing about myself. Basically, I wrote two novels before, and a lot of people used to a lot of people assumed that, like, for example, especially my first novel, Afro Autistic, a lot of people assumed that the main character was me when I was younger. I'm like, no, it was not. It was there you go. Like, I was as cool as no one. Basically. So actually writing about myself and my own experience was interesting. I realized it was probably the part of the book that I needed help editing the most. I believe I would say particularly in the most recent memories. So the later Ujima chapters, for example, I struggled a bit to parse out what was necessary to add in the book versus what was more necessary to just keep in my journal. And so that was a little bit difficult to to put more recent thoughts on paper. But and I did feel a little squeamish about being vulnerable, be really vulnerable on paper, knowing that it was going to be shared publicly. But I I was definitely inspired and encouraged by everybody that I interviewed before me that were also putting their stories out. So and I wanted to add to it too, to add my own story, add my own perspective with my background, with my religion, with the way I interact with friends, what I want in friends too. I wanted to make sure my point of view was out there too. So I tried to be courageous about about writing it, even though I had to make sure I parsed out as much as I could to make things more relevant.
Yeah. It's definitely a very vulnerable place to be, to share so much about yourself in a book. And yeah, and I think that it really enhances all of the stories and helps tie them all together. And I'm wondering, was it kind of healing or cathartic in a way to be able to go through that process of writing your own story publicly like that?
Yes, in a way, especially just to not only think like, wow, I really relate to, for example, what Olivia in Birmingham, England went through. For me to actually write something on paper that was really a similar experience, I think really hit home for me when I was writing that this is that we do have a lot of similar experiences and similar inner thoughts. And so I think in a way it, it was a nice healing opportunity for me too.
Oh, that's great. Wonderful. So what kind of feedback have you gotten so far about the book?
Sure. I've gotten really neat feedback from so earlier I was saying how I was hoping that it was a resource for both academics and non-academics alike. And I've been really thrilled to get feedback, positive feedback from academics and non-academics alike. Just a lot of people. It's been really neat to see it in places like, for example, the Mansfield College Library at Oxford highlighted it on their new bookshelf, on their new release section, which was a dream come true, just being highlighted in Oxford College like that. Mm-hmm. It's probably the most attention I've gotten for one of my books. So it's been really overwhelming, but really exciting to just connect with so many readers, so many researchers, other Black autistic individuals, other autistic individuals of all cultures and colors, and yeah, just organizations that have reached out. It's been a great experience, and I've been really appreciative of the positive feedback from people of all walks of life.
Oh, that's really great. That's awesome. So, like, where can people go if they want to get your book or learn more about your work? Because you do so much other work around, mental health advocacy and research and all of this. Where can they go to learn more?
Sure. I think, well, for the book, I think the best way is, of course, there's platforms like Amazon, but really anywhere books are sold online, such as like Blackwell's or Barnes and Noble's. You can find the book there. The book is titled Autistic and Black. I think the best way to support me would be subscribing to my newsletter. You can find it on my website at kalaomeiza.com. I guess it's neither first or last name or intuitive spelling. So KalaOmeiza.com. You can see my newsletter link there. And you can also follow me on platforms like LinkedIn or Instagram. You can just search my name, Kala Allen Omeiza, and hopefully it should come up in the first few sections.
Okay, cool. So I'll put a link to your website so that people can go there. I'm sure they can learn more about your book. They can sign up for your newsletter and connect with you on socials from there as well. So yeah, Kala, it's been great chatting with you, and again, congratulations on your brand new book, Autistic and Black. It's definitely going to have a big influence. It sounds like within academia and outside of academia, really for everybody to just learn more about Black individuals' autistic experiences. Is there anything else that you'd like our listeners to know, or any other ways they can help or support your work?
Yeah, I guess I'll just reiterate that, yeah, subscribing to my newsletter would be probably the best way to support my work. My newsletter, I'm focusing on highlighting other neurodiversity advocates, work, books, and even podcasts like yours, for example, just like highlighting like what the community is doing basically in my newsletter. So that's probably the single best way to learn and to support. It's like a really important metric for authors, and I'm really excited to expand in future emails.
All right, awesome. All right, so yep, we'll put the link in there, and subscribe to your newsletter, and just really excited to learn more about what you'll be doing and who you'll be featuring and all the work you'll be doing going forward in the future. So yeah, thanks again, Kala. It's been great talking with you today. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, you as well. Yeah, thank you very much.